Oh my goodness, man. So Ali, direct me, Akhi. Turn that one off.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Fantastic. So what we have is we've introduced everyone, but we'll just do a little bit of an introduction. Sorry for the delay, everyone. Thank you all for being patient. Alhamdulillah. We all ain't going nowhere. The quarantine keeps us here. Alhamdulillah. And inshallah, you're all with us here tonight. We got about 70 people here on Zoom. I think we got about another 47 or 50 on YouTube last time I checked. So we'll get this party started, inshallah. We have Sidi Ubaydullah Evans with us here today, right and directly mubasharatan from his home, alhamdulillah. And we got the video going, we got the audio going. Sidi Ubaydullah Evans, as you all know, has been teaching Purification of the Heart, which is a book translated by Sheikh Hamza Yusuf. And it's a beautiful text. And today we're covering Blameworthy Modesty. Blameworthy Modesty, which starts on page 48 of the text. Inshallah, without further ado, Sidi Ubaydullah Evans, tafadal.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا فمن يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده
MashaAllah, everyone, you know, things happen. There sometimes we plan, but Allah is the best of planners. We set these things up. We set up the Zoom. We set up the timings for everyone to be on, and the teachers, and to set up their audio and visual and internet. And we believe everything will go off without a hitch. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has a better plan. And in the end, just like the position and the situation we're in right now, we submit, alhamdulillah. With that being said, I would like to invite all of you to stay with us as much as you can. I know Ubaydullah Evans is coming back on. We'll be covering the book that we started, which is on page 48 of Purification of the Heart. The title is Blameworthy Modesty. In the meantime, I do ask that all of you stay around. There's going to be a beautiful video that comes on later today. The video is going to be about 1,000 hearts of ta'leef. It's going to be a video that we can all engage in, inshallah, all help, and at the same time, all be amazed by the things that transpire. I thank you all for your patience. Sidi Ubaydullah is jumping back on. Hopefully we could get better audio. If not, we'll see the best that we can do, inshallah, with creating the audio only without the visual, inshallah. And we see you clearly, Sidi Ubayd. And Bismillah, let's try the audio. You're adjusting the camera and we can see that. So inshallah, when you can, we'll have you unmute yourself and try the audio one more time. And if that doesn't,
how is it now?
Right now the audio sounds good, but let's have you start and then we'll see. And I'll if I have to, I'll have to unapologetic.
This is actually hard for me to set up because I'm actually using my youngest daughter's iPad. Everybody make dua for her. She was angry when I took it. You see, she was very upset. Let me see if I can get this thing positioned where I can be seen.
Yeah, we can see you clearly and we can hear you well so far. And Bismillah, whenever you're ready, we'll reinitiate. Forgive us, everyone, for the difficulties. We're all getting used to these things. Things come up like this all the time. Excuse us. We try our best not to allow that to happen. But alhamdulillah, Sidi Ubayd, tafadal. Bismillah.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. As for blameworthy modesty, it is that which prevents one from denouncing the condemnable or from asking a question concerning a matter relating to religion and the like. For this reason, it is considered a harmful quality. Ali, how is that? Okay, bismillah. I'm comfortable now. So the first thing he says is blameworthy modesty. It prevents one from doing a nahyu anil munkar or al amr bil ma'ruf, right? If you have so much tawadu', you have so much humility, you have so much modesty, so much haya, that you cannot speak out in the face of something condemnable, in the face of something clearly wrong, then your modesty is blameworthy. And Imam Ghazali said quite simply about this, if you want to know how to discipline the tongue, it's working well. Now I have to get a charger for this machine. Difficult times. May Allah reward all of your patience. Okay? You and everyone else. I really, really appreciate you all. Yes, they actually say the quality is working pretty well. Bismillah. Huh? Oh, my wife was saying I told you so. She was telling me to use the tablet from the very beginning. The lesson in all of this is, if you don't succeed the first time, go back and do it the way your wife told you to. You know, but
happy wife, happy life, Sidi.
Mashallah, mashallah. So Imam Ghazali, he gave a very simple formula to disciplining the tongue. He said, when you want to speak, be quiet. And when you want to be quiet, speak. Al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa nahyu anil munkar, enjoining what is good and forbidding what is wrong. This is something very difficult to do because it might entail making people uncomfortable. And the last thing anybody wants to do is make someone uncomfortable. Most of all, themselves. They don't want to make themselves uncomfortable. So if you have a kind of modesty, a kind of haya that, you know, I don't want to say anything because my saying something would entail someone's discomfort, that modesty is blameworthy. Sometimes integrity, courage, it demands saying the thing that is difficult to say. In that regard, the great Imam Shafi'i, he said, even anger has some utility. Because if it were not for anger, none of us would be able to summon the courage necessary to speak out against injustice. That injustice should move you to speaking out against it. This is something in the English language we call righteous indignation. That I see something that angers me or something that impacts me so that I must say something about it. And if you're prevented from saying something about that thing out of a feeling of modesty, that modesty is blameworthy. You see in the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one of the clearest statements that anyone has ever said about him is the statement of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, that he never got angry for his own sake. And he never spoke up in defense of himself. But his anger was for the sake of Allah. And when he had to speak out against something, it was for the sake of Allah. This is why he is al-insan al-kamil, the complete and perfected human being. But that willingness to speak up when the rights of Allah Ta'ala are being violated, this is something that is challenging. But if we want to be prophetic in our walk, we want to be prophetic in our way, it entails expressing a willingness to do that. Now, here it's very important that we mention a caveat. And that is, you can only do al-amr bil-ma'ruf wa nahyu 'anil munkar if you know that what you're condemning is actually wrong and what you're enjoining is actually good, if what you're condemning is in fact a matter upon which people differ, meaning this is an area of legitimate khilaf, this is an area of legitimate difference, it is not commendable to do a nahyu an al-munkar, to forbid the wrong, because what you're forbidding is not in fact wrong. It's something upon which scholars differ. You know, when I was at Azhar, one of the coolest little adages I picked up was "Man qalla ilmuhu kathura inkaruh." The less knowledge a person has, the more they see wrong. You see, I forget who the scholar was, but we once learned of a scholar whose knowledge of the halal and haram was so vast that he rarely saw somebody doing something for which he did not know at least a qawl, at least a, meaning like there is some legitimacy to that. There is some legitimacy to that. It might not be the rajih, it might not be the preponderant opinion, it might not be the mu'tamad, it might not be the relied upon opinion, it might not be the mashhur, it might not be the most well-known opinion, but it's an opinion, all right? But if you see something that is absolutely wrong and you believe that there is some benefit in speaking out against this thing that is wrong, modesty should not prevent you from speaking out against it, right? The second thing that he mentions is inquiring about a matter of faith, inquiring about a matter of deen. MashaAllah, it gives me great pride to say that in this, our example is the women of the Ansar. May God be pleased with them. Radiyallahu anhum jam'ah. May God be pleased with all of them. That, the story goes, there's actually two riwayat, there's two narrations. Both of them are illuminating. In fact, there's three. All three of them are illuminating. The first of them, a woman was asking about when she could pray. She was asking some details about her menstrual cycle. And she was asking, at what point should I resume the prayer? And the Prophet ﷺ was explaining to her. And she was pushing him, asking for more detail. And as she was asking for more detail, he could see Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha becoming embarrassed, because the woman had to speak very candidly about her discharge, the color of the discharge, the texture of the discharge, the scent of the discharge. And Aisha was like, she was looking very uncomfortable, like, oh my God, I can't believe you're doing this. And then even for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, him attempting to explain to her, it became somewhat awkward. And then he told Aisha, explain to her what I'm talking about. So in this hadith, you see this woman, bold, imperious, unapologetic, asking a question about her ibadah, about her worship of God. The Prophet ﷺ not shaming her with any notion of ihtisham or excessive modesty. And then you see the Prophet empowering Aisha to teach in his presence, empowering her, encouraging her to be a teacher in his presence. Explain to her, demonstrate to her what I'm talking about. All right. After that woman departed, the Prophet ﷺ said, blessed are the women of the Ansar, because they did not allow ihtisham. They did not allow excessive shyness, which in many traditional cultures is considered a virtue for women, excessive shyness. The Prophet was saying they did not allow excessive shyness to prevent them from learning their religion. In the second riwayah, and this one is even more like, I remember reading this and I began to feel some uncomfortability myself just reading it, right? The Prophet ﷺ is standing again with Aisha. And one of the women of the Ansar approaches them. And she says, actually quite ambiguously, what should a woman do if she sees in her dream what a man sees in his dream? And this was a very unconventional way to ask a question. And the Prophet ﷺ initially didn't exactly understand what she was asking. And he said, excuse me, what? And she said, what if a woman has an erotic dream? What if a woman has a dream in which there is some sensual act occurring in the dream? Aisha, narrating the hadith, she said, when the woman clarified, she wanted to die. She wanted to die. When the woman clarified what she meant, when she said, what if a woman has an erotic dream? Aisha said she wanted to die right there on the spot. Like, I wanted to die. And then Aisha, she actually blurted out, do women even have dreams like that? Like trying to kind of reestablish that this was improper. Do women even have dreams like that? And then the Prophet ﷺ said, yes, if she's asking the question. Clearly women have dreams like that. And then the Prophet said to her, if she wakes and she does not find any moisture from discharge or anything like that, she does not need to make ghusl. She does not need to make ghusl. She does not need to, take a full purificatory bath. On the other hand, if she wakes and she finds moisture from discharge, she should make ghusl. And the woman thanked the Prophet ﷺ and she walked away. And Aisha was still like shaking. And the Prophet said again, blessed are the women of the Ansar, because they did not allow shyness to prevent them from learning their religion. Then in a third riwayah, the Prophet ﷺ is sitting with Sayyidina Umar, and a woman from among the Ansar, subhanAllah, this is a consistent thread that runs through hadith about the women of the Ansar, that they were very bold, they were unapologetic, they were intrepid, they were unafraid to ask questions, and they took certain liberties. They had the nature of their relationships with their husbands was different than the nature of the muhajirun, the women of the muhajirin. The nature of their relationship with their husbands was different. So when you read in the hadith of the Athar, the tradition attributed to Sayyidina Umar, he said, we were a people that used to dominate our women. Now we have come to a people who are dominated by their women, right? He's saying that, we had a certain understanding of normalcy in terms of, how women and men relate to each other. But the Ansar, they have a different understanding of normalcy in terms of how husbands and wives relate to each other. What I find most enlightening about this is that neither was treated, that the tendency of the women of the Ansar was not treated as an anathema. It was not treated as something irreconcilable with deen. It was treated as a cultural sensibility. It was treated as, a tendency, like, the relationship is different. And it was just different. So when this woman approached the Prophet ﷺ, this Ansari woman, and she said very boldly, what about women? The men are traveling with you. The men have access to you. The men get to study with you. She even said in one riwayah, the men learn about what they're going to get in heaven, talking about the Hur Ayn, talking about the women of Jannah. The men even hear about what they're going to get in heaven. What about women? In one riwayah that I was blessed to read with one of my teachers, the Prophet ﷺ stepped back. Oh, mashallah. Ansar are the people of the Medinese community, are the people of Medina, are the Ansar, right? The people of Mecca who made the migration to Medina, they're known as the Muhajirun, and the people that received them, and Muhajir in Arabic means migrant. Hold on one second. This is yelling at my house. It's crazy. Hey, Barry, is it possible that the kids can quiet down just a little bit? Jazakallah khair. Jazakallah khair. Subhanallah. My wife is definitely like the women of the Ansar, without question. Allah yubarik fiha. Okay. So, MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Masroor had a beautiful comment, alhamdulillah. So, she came to the Prophet ﷺ, and she said, what about women? And in one riwayah that I was blessed to read with a teacher of mine, the Prophet asked Sayyidina Umar, radiallahu anhu, what do you think about this? Meaning, what is your reaction to this woman approaching me and essentially challenging me in a very assertive way? And Sayyidina Umar, he famously said, Wallahi, I swear to God, I did not know a woman could do that. By which he meant to approach a leader in the community that boldly, that assertively, pulling no punches. This is just something I'm unaccustomed to. And the Prophet ﷺ, he told Umar, there's nothing unusual about this. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. There's nothing unusual about this. In a sense saying, look, our cultural sensibility as Ahlul Mecca, as the people of Mecca, is our cultural sensibility. The Ansar, they clearly have a different sensibility, and that's okay. Then he turned to that woman and he granted her request. And the Prophet ﷺ, he would sit with the women of the Ansar every week, usually on Mondays, just answering their questions, giving them specific religious instruction. This is the Prophet ﷺ. And you still have some places in our community where women are fighting for access to spaces they can access, fighting for access to spaces of sacred learning. Right? The Prophet ﷺ appreciated this boldness when it came to learning one's religion. Now I'm going to tell you a few things. Well, I'll tell you another thing. Even from our tradition, when it comes to the Sharia. So all of us are familiar with this battery of rulings known as the Fard Ayn, kind of your individual religious obligations as a Muslim. These are the things that we will individually be questioned about when we meet God, right? How to pray, how to fast, how to give zakat, how to make hajj, the conditions of your shahada, what nullifies your shahada. These are the things that we will be individually questioned about when we meet Allah. In every madhab, if a woman is trying to learn these obligations, her individual obligations, and she is experiencing, pushback, hurdles at the request of her husband, that she don't go to this gathering or don't go to that gathering, he is religiously obligated to hire someone. If he is that insistent upon, her not going out, this entails a threat to your security. This is dangerous. That is dangerous. And she's trying to learn her fard al-ain. Either he has to teach her those obligations, or he has to hire someone to come and teach her those obligations. If he is unwilling to do either of those, she does not have to obey her husband in that. She can just leave, because she is trying to learn her fard al-ain. This kind of boldness, this kind of you don't see this in many places in the Sharia, but when it comes to learning, there is no modesty that should prevent one from learning. And then lastly, to kind of round out, I think when it comes to this idea of blameworthy modesty preventing us from learning, I have to use at least one example from the brothers, right? I can't leave us completely hanging at it, right? One of the things that really jumps out to me is that the Prophet ﷺ would discourage people asking questions if in asking those questions, their intention was really to circumvent. It's like the famous story of Bani Israel, that they, of course, had the obligation of maintaining the Sabbath. And one of the rulings of maintaining the Sabbath is that you cannot work. So they would put nets in the water. The fishermen would put nets in the water, and they would say, we're not working, the nets are working. Right? Is that okay? This kind of questioning, this kind of circumvention of the Sharia is always regarded as something blameworthy. Or when Musa alayhi salam said to them, Allah has commanded that you slaughter a calf. And they said, what kind of calf? Allah says, and Musa, Allah, communicates to Musa via revelation, not a calf that has never given birth, and not a calf that has had lots of children, but awamu bayna dhalik, something in between the two of those. And then they say, okay, what color, right? Ma lawnuha. And then Allah communicates to Musa via revelation, it should be yellow. It should be yellow and its color should be striking. Then they come back and say, what kind again? Right? Truly, all of the different kinds are like tashabahat alayna. They're all the same to us. Right? This kind of questioning is discouraged because you really are not asking for the sake of learning. You're asking for the sake of circumnavigating the commandment of God. You understand what I'm saying? Whenever someone asks the question so that they could learn how to better implement what God commanded of them, the Prophet never discouraged that. Even if that question was, about something, potentially risque. Sayyidina Umar, in this, subhanAllah, Ali, it's much easier to talk about these subjects when you're talking to a screen and you can't see anyone's face. MashaAllah. But Sayyidina Umar famously asked the Prophet ﷺ about different positions in intercourse. And the Prophet responded and he answered the question. And he said, it is completely up to you. And there was no shame in that because Sayyidina Omar really wanted to know. So anytime a question is asked in earnest that impacts our ability to worship God, that question is encouraged. And if a person refrains from asking such a question because of some, performative modesty, this is not real modesty. This is blameworthy modesty. The last thing I'm going to say about this, and then we will move on, is, in some of our intellectual cultures, it is seen as something irreverent to ask the mashayikh a question that even if you don't understand something, even if you want clarification on something, to ask for said clarification or said understanding, this is seen as something irreverent. This is seen as qillatul ihtiram, qillatul adab, disrespect. This is seen as a lack of etiquette. No, I think that we have to stand up and use these teachings to challenge cultures like that. It's not disrespect to ask for clarification on something that you don't understand. It's not qillatul adab. It's not a lack of etiquette to say, excuse me, Sheikh, I don't understand that. And if one is teaching a literate people, one should be prepared to explain the rationale or reasoning behind what one is saying. I remember once, Ali, I was sitting at Masjid Azhar, and I'm sitting at Masjid Azhar, and the Sheikh was teaching some matan, some text, and someone said those fateful words, Ya Maulana, mad dalil yani. Oh, our master, what is the dalil? The Sheikh, there was just a look of incredulity that went over the face of the Sheikh. He was like, dalil. Then he pointed to his tarbush. He pointed to his headdress that is particular to the Mashayikh of Azhar, right? There's a white turban and a red fez with the tassel to the back. Okay, mashallah. That was my daughter saying something to me. A white turban with a red fez with a black tassel always to the back. He pointed to the tarbush and he said, this is my dalil. This is the dalil. And some people were very impressed with this. Like, ooh, he really showed him. I was sitting there like, no, man, I mean, I didn't get the sense that the questioner was trying to embarrass the Sheikh. I got the sense that the questioner really wanted to know, what textual basis, if there is any. And if your basis is an other textual basis, explain that to us, right? But what is the basis for what you're saying? I don't want to put too sharp a point, on this. Because I do understand that sometimes in the course of teaching, it would be very cumbersome to explain the rationale and basis for every single thing that you're saying. But at the very least, even if you can't deal with that now, you say, we don't have time or talk to me offline, anyone asking a sincere question should not be shunned, should not be shamed into silence. Because when a person is shunned or shamed into silence, that becomes resentment. Sometimes not just toward the tradition, but toward the faith itself. You see? Imam Maulud continues, as for noble modesty, it is such as the chosen, as for noble modesty, such as the chosen one's behavior the night he married Zainab, when he fed his company to their full from his wedding, and they all left except for 3. They lingered, yet he did not request that they leave. Such modesty is a most excellent virtue. Had modesty been a person, it would have been a righteous one and would do nothing but good in whatever it did. So here, mashallah, we see the completeness of Imam Maulud's method. That after talking about blameworthy modesty, he has to talk about praiseworthy modesty. And in that regard, he uses the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, a man that when he married Zainab, he invited people back to his home for a walima. And back then, the wala'im, they were very simple. Now you can't, you can barely host a walima without, 50,000 or something like that, right? Back then, the wala'im were very simple. Maybe some dates.
But now you could do it. Now you could do it. Maybe like 2 people.
Maybe like 2 people. That might still cost 20,000. Depending on which 2 people, right? But maybe some dates, maybe some milk, maybe some bread with some edam, which in Arabic means condiments. But of course, they are there. They're being hosted by the Prophet ﷺ, and they begin to overstay their welcome. And then people start leaving, right? But 3 people kind of lingered. They kind of loitered. They just hung out. And one scholar, commenting on this hadith, he said, but you have to excuse them, right? Yes, they loitered, they lingered. It would be easy to look and say this was inconsiderate, this was rude, this was the wedding night of the Prophet ﷺ. They occupied his time, they took from his bride, but they were enjoying the company of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when you are in the presence of your beloved, it's very easy to lose track of time. It's very easy to have a moment with someone that you love that intensely that you just don't want to end. Like, have you ever been with somebody? Could be your wife if, you're thinking of a romantic context. Could be a friend of yours that you just love their company. That like, it's like the time of Fajr. And you're still like, yo, the night is still young. Yo, the night is still young, man. What you mean? What you mean turning it in? We're just getting started. We're just getting started. And they're looking at you like, just getting started. Habib, we've been drinking coffee and drinking tea and hanging out from Isha until Fajr. Don't you know in almost all of the madhahib, any talk after Isha is hurrah, is balderdash. It's a waste of time. We should have been sleeping and waking up for tahajjud, but our love for each other kept us up, socializing, hanging out, telling stories all night. And they're ready to pray Fajr and go home. But because you're holding on to the moment and cherishing the moment, you're like, no, hold on. Let's just stay together until Ishraq. Let's just stay together until Salat al-Duha. That is the state that they were in. So yes, it might be seen as something inconsiderate, but they were with their Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that happens. So the Prophet ﷺ, in his great modesty, he refused to tell them that they had overstayed their welcome. And in one hadith, he would get up, go into other rooms and come back. He would get up and he would come back. And when he came back, they were still there, seated, waiting. When is he coming back? I was like, dude, that is modesty. If it was me, yo, man, I'm sitting there like, look, I'm going to go upstairs. I'm going to put my pajamas on with a cap with a little ball on the end. come back down to my company and say, you guys want to keep this going or you want to let me get some sleep? Right? Imam Maulud is saying that kind of modesty, that is praiseworthy modesty. Right? Now, the story ended with Allah Ta'ala sending down wahi. فَإِذَا تَعِمْتُمْ فَانْتَشِرُوا. After you've eaten with the Prophet ﷺ, get out. Leave. Don't hang out. Right? But both parties, you know, them in love with the company of the Prophet ﷺ, and the Prophet enduring this inconvenience was really, really beautiful, mashallah. So we'll stop there. I know that there are some questions. I tried to leave about 20 minutes, inshallah, for questions on blameworthy modesty. I know we got off to a late start. You know, I should have listened to my wife, and that wouldn't have happened. But next time, inshallah, we'll be ready, inshallah.
Sidi Ubaid, before we field questions, which we intend to do very quickly, since we have everyone here, alhamdulillah, we have about 160 people in total between YouTube and Zoom. So welcome all of you. Thank you for being patient with us. We will be fielding questions. Please fill the questions on the bottom of the chat in the YouTube or the Zoom. But very quickly, we wanted to just bring your attention to a video that Ta'leef has put together. And before I speak about it in any way, shape, or form, we'll just have our admin share it and start it, and please bear with us through the video. It's a beautiful video, and then we'll chime right back, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Do you see it?
My story is a little crazy. Well, I can say why I was really drawn to just Islam in general is because since I was 12, because I remember that's when I first started hanging out with one of my Muslim friends, and like, you know, I just see the difference and like the peace and like the clarity that you guys have always had. And then for a long time, I was just spiritual. I would go to the Gurdwara, like I would go to like, you know, churches. I would go wherever, you know, and just to see what it was about, see if anything else resonated with me. And nothing ever did, nothing ever clicked like that. Nothing ever did. The community, everything about it, it's just so loving, and it's just, I feel so at peace when I'm there. And like, it's just so pure. There's no like, oh, I'm doing this for you because I want something back, you know, like you guys want nothing back. You're just genuinely great people, you know, and I see what it has done for all of you guys, you know.
I declare that there is no one worthy of worship except Allah. Except Allah. And I declare and I testify, I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah.
You guys have all treated me better than my own family. My own family. I'm telling you, my own blood didn't treat me as well as you guys did. And it's always been like that. I'm saying it's coming, really pounding through my heart. Exactly what everybody said. They said, welcome home. I felt like I was coming home. I can feel you guys praying. I can feel your prayers.
Thank you all for watching the video. This is our campaign that we are pushing, the 1,000 Hearts campaign. If you all can pay attention to the screen, you'll be able to give directly from your phone through the URL. It's really amazing technology that we have for me. But what I want to say is that 1,000 Hearts of Ta'leef is an idea in which three types of people are affected by Ta'leef. The people who are seekers, people who are converts, and people who are youth. And alhamdulillah, we've gotten to be a part of so many different communities as Ta'leef, but we want you all to know that you have an opportunity to support this initiative by giving $3 a day, $1 for every type of individual, $1 to support hearts like Jess, who recently took Shahada 2 weeks ago. And alhamdulillah, one of our very own Mahdi Amin gave her the Shahada, and she is with us continuously. And now we want you all to pray for her. She is going through a serious illness. She has been diagnosed with cancer, and alhamdulillah, she has taken her Shahada 2 weeks ago. And we'd like to invite you all to be the 1,000 strong, 1,000 hearts that come together to support Ta'leef Collective, 1,000 hearts that come together to give $3 a day. That's all it takes for all of us to be able to do the work that we need to do, the work that we're supposed to do, and inshallah, the work that we can do in a way that makes the Prophet, peace be upon him, happy, and Allah happy, and the community happy. We just wanted to share that with all of you. If you can share that with other people, please do. It's $3 a day. That's basically a latte. I didn't mean to make that rhyme. Sidi Ubaid, forgive us for jumping in between you and the questions, but we know that after the questions, everybody leaves. But in between the two, people stay, and we'll get right into it. And
No. Number one, actually, man. Please, everybody, make du'a for our sister. And you know, it's important that we study, but something like that must be given precedent. You know, it must take precedence. Excuse me. And so I think you did it at the perfect time. Wallahi.
God bless you. So, alhamdulillah, everyone. Our idea for one whole year, inshallah, is 1,000 hearts to come together to pay $3 a day. 1,000 hearts paying $3 a day takes care of everything that we need to do when it comes to take care of the seeker or the convert or the youth, inshallah. And that's one of the initiatives that we're endeavoring on for, inshallah, 1 year collectively together. I want to jump right into the questions. We have a question that says, what can we do about a non-Muslim step-parent who wants you to participate and validate something they do, say, but don't feel that you can't say something to them for the sensitivity of the relationship?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You know, al-amr bil ma'ruf wa nahyu an al-munkar, you know, enjoining what is good and forbidding, you know, what is evil. It's something that must be approached with great care and great wisdom. Because if in fact one is convinced, and this is where, you know, we talk about we talk about, you know, something that can't be known definitively, but it's something that's known, you know, it's known probabilistically. If you believe that in speaking up and saying something about a particular issue, my doing that will lead to a bigger issue, it becomes haram for you to speak up and to say anything about it. And this is why the last part of the hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says, فَمَنْ مِنْكُمْ يَرَى مُنْكَرًا, whoever among you sees something wrong, فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ, then let him or her change it with their hand. فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ, but if they're unable, فَبِلِسَانِهِ, then with their tongue. فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ, but if they're unable, أَنْ يَكْرَهَهُ فِي قَلْبِ وَهَذَا أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ, to dislike it in their heart, and this is the weakest of faith. Because sometimes the only thing we can do with things that are wrong is just to dislike them in our hearts. Because maybe we speak out against it and it leads to bigger turmoil, bigger fitna, problems in the family. And this would be the regular cameo. Here it comes.
Hi.
Okay.
Dad, I want to get a picture.
Okay, wait. I'll tell you when, okay? I'll tell you when. So,
It's okay.
no. Okay, bismillah. It's fine. So, yeah, if you have, a non-Muslim step-parent or a Muslim step-parent or a friend or a colleague or anyone for that matter that you think, okay, if I speak up and I say something about this, it could actually make matters worse. You absolutely should not speak up about it. In this regard, man, the most this is an interesting story, and it features an unlikely person. When you think of all of the scholars in Islamic history, there's a few scholars that are known for extreme shiddah, extreme shiddah. Yani they're known for being very extreme. Right? My language fails me. Extremeness. No. Just being quite strident in their opinion and the way they're right. Extreme strictness. Jazakillah khair. Right? Extreme shiddah, right? Extreme strictness. There's a few different people who come to mind. One of them, Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, right? One of them, Ibn Taymiyyah, someone that, to the point that, just known for extreme shiddah. This story is about Ibn Taymiyyah. That one day he was with some of his students in Damascus. And this was after the Mongol invasion of Damascus. And they saw some Mongols that had converted to Islam drinking alcohol. These were Muslims, and they were drinking alcohol. And one of the students of Ibn Taymiyyah said, "Oh my God, they're drinking. We have to do al-amr bil ma'ruf. We have to go up to them, and we have to take their liquor away, and we have to tell them that drinking alcohol is forbidden." And Ibn Taymiyyah looked at the student and he said, "Most people, yes, you'd be right. We should. But these people, what they're going to do is they're going to drink. They're going to get very sleepy after that. They're going to lie down, and we will all be spared of what they would do if they were awake. So let them have their alcohol and don't say anything to them."
Yeah, you remind me of my father. He used to say, "No mudalimin ibadi." He used to wake me up like that.
Leave them alone. And so the student said, "But what about al-amr bil ma'ruf? We have to enjoy what is good." And he said, "This is called hikmah. This is called wisdom." Right? So in our attempt to have difficult conversations, be it with a step parent or anyone else, if the conversation or the action is inevitably going to lead to greater conflict, greater tension, right? Greater tension, then it's better just to leave them alone. So I hope that helps for the questioner.
So the next question is, how to go about the issue of facing one's family / telling them that something which they are taking part in or participating is either haram or in the gray areas of the religion, such as well, this person asking is imposing this, such as birthdays or Halloween for their kids or other bid'ah acts, question mark.
Well, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You know, the most important thing when attempting to advise someone, if you want them to be receptive, you know, there's two distinct ways of giving advice. One is where you are just trying to fulfill your own obligation to say what it is you feel need to be said. Whatever you feel needs to be said, you just want to just be able to say, hey, I said it. The other way of giving advice is when you're actually packaging and wrapping the advice in a way that makes it easy for the person to whom you're speaking to be receptive. Like, I want you to be receptive. If your concern is the former, you probably shouldn't be giving advice. If you only want to just, hey, it's my obligation to point out something wrong, I would say you should defer to somebody who cares enough to be careful so that the person can be receptive. And this is something we forget, that you could still fulfill your obligation if you pass the responsibility to somebody better than you. You could say, hey, so-and-so has been engaging in this or that, and I'm concerned about them. I might not be the best person to talk to them about it, but Ali, you might be much better to talk to them about it. That is not considered backbiting, right? That is not considered backbiting. If you say, look, I'm concerned about this person. I know that I'm not the right person to give advice because I just don't do it. It's really an art form, man. When you see someone who gives nasiha, well, it's the way they do it. It's almost like an art form. It's crafted, and you either have to sit with those people to notice how they do it, or you should defer to one of those people, one of those sisters, one of those brothers. Hold on one second. Guys, please. You know, it's really, a kind of art form to, give good nasiha. Now, I have heard, I don't think that I'm one of those people, but I am very fascinated by those people. And when I ask them, look, how does one give good nasiha? I've heard so many different things. I can list some of what I've heard. The most important thing is give the advice in a way that the person is assured that what you're saying out of pure love and concern for them. That you have no intent to tear them down, to invalidate them, to discredit them. That you tell them in a way that they are convinced that this is emanated by concern. And that's it. And one of the ways you do that is that you give them the advice in, you can express your concern, but you want to be slightly dispassionate so that after you tell them, you go right back. It's like, I wanted you to know this. Now that I've told you, you can like change. It's not like you make it this momentous. You have been celebrating Halloween. That's wrong. I've told you it's wrong. Now what are you going to do about it? No, you just want to say, that might be something, if you think it's something that the person should look into. Now, the actual issues that the issues that were attached to this question, Halloween, birthdays, there's difference of opinion about those things, right? But if you want to talk to anyone about something that you think is questionable, you want to tell them in, a slightly dispassionate way, so that they know that, look, our friendship, our relationship is not going to change based on what you do with this nasiha, right? My love for you is assured. It's not going to change based on how you treat my advice. I'll tell one story, and then, in the interest of time, oh my God, it's already 9 o'clock. So Allah, I'll tell one story about this, and then we'll pick this up from next week. I think this is really important. A brother told me that a group of tulab al-ilm, a group of students from the UK, were visiting. They were not residents, but they were visiting Mauritania. And the school of Marabt al-Hajj. And he said that in their honor, they had slaughtered like a goat in their honor. And they had a feast to, as a show of ikram al-dayf, respect to these guests. Now he said at that time, they did not know how scarce meat was, in that community. They did not know how rarely they ate meat. So he said that while eating dinner, they would eat and kind of like not clean the bone, eat a little bit, and then they would throw the bone away, but it would still be some meat left on the bone, right? They wouldn't clean the bone. They would just eat and then toss the bone. And he said that in retrospect, he could actually see people grimacing as he did it. He could see some of the Mauritanians, they were like, oh, like every time he tossed the meat he tossed the bone with some meat still on it, they were like, ooh, like that kind of really hurts, right? He said the next day, they were leaving right after Subh, right after Fajr. And he said there was a man running, trying to catch up with their caravan. Like running until he was out of breath. It was like something from Surah Yasin, right? He said the man called up to their caravan. He caught his breath and he said, I just want you to know that the rizq is from Allah. And anything that you ate or consumed while you were with us, Allah had decreed that for you, and it's yours. But just for your own spiritual benefit, I want you to know that when you're eating and you waste food, what you leave for shaitan. Assalamu alaikum. And he just turned and he just started walking back to the village. And the brother said that this was the most selfless advice he had ever been given. The man didn't even wait to see what his reaction was. And he said after that, he never wasted food. He never wasted food. And that he makes dua for that man all the time. Because in addition to teaching him this about wasting food, he taught him how to give advice in a dispassionate, selfless way. That's it. And he turned around. Right? So we'll come back to this next week, inshallah. But I have to get upstairs. My wife is calling me for dinner, inshallah.
Yeah,
Next week,
yes, sir.
I will be on 10 minutes early to make sure that, there's no technical issues, inshallah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. سبحان الله وبحمده سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت وأستغفرك وأتوب إليك. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. آمين يا رب العالمين. See you soon. Love you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, C. Thank you, everyone that's been here and stayed with us. Inshallah, next week we'll try our best to be on time and inshallah not have any technical difficulties. We'll prepare as much as we can. Thank you, Sidi Ubaydullah Evans. Thanks to his family, family. Inshallah, you all watched the video that we have, 1,000 Hearts of Ta'leef. The 1,000 hearts can be you, all 150 of you today. Each one of you can give $3 a day. That would be more than sufficient. If we could get 1,000 people to give $3 a day to help this endeavor, help this initiative, to keep the da'wah going, to help those that are seeking, to help those that are converting, and the youth, inshallah, with Ta'leef. My name is Ali Dia. I'm the Executive Director of Ta'leef. If you all need anything, please don't hesitate to contact me. At the same time, stay safe. You're all in our prayers. You're all in our community. Join us, God willing, in all of our other programs. Tomorrow we have Being Muslim with Will Caldwell. Thursday we have the Burda, which is a poem reciting about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, peace be upon him. And then Sunday we have a beautiful gathering, which is the community check-in every Sunday at 6 p.m. Central Time. That's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. We always have a community check-in where we have people come together and talk about what they're dealing with in this time, in this crisis, and everything that we're going through in humanity, and just be there for each other and hopefully learn a few things about what's going around with us. And at the same time, have a beautiful scholar, male or female, come through and share some grounding words for all of us to get through. Jazakallah khair for everything. Thank you for your patience. Please don't forget to donate. Love you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.